You're listening to Relatable with Stephanie Michele, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Relatable. It is January 17th, 2017. Huge week for our country. Big week for the U.S. With the changing of the power on Friday. And I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel about it yet. I haven't really come to terms with a lot of people when they say, let's wait and see. This person, Donald Trump has been elected our president, and we should back him up. But I can tell you how I reflected on it the day after the election. So I want to share that because it's kind of relevant to the show that we're about to have today. So I can say honestly, the day after the election, I woke up for the first time ever in my country, and I felt unsafe. I felt like my safety had been threatened as a woman. I couldn't understand how a person that has said so many disrespectful things to so many different people, including women, would now be the example, in the most powerful position in the world. And I just felt like, wow, isn't that just making an excuse for that kind of behavior and allowing that kind of behavior to happen? And it just really frightened me. And then the talks about the changes of what could happen with my rights or people having rights over my body. It's frightening. One of the most heartbreaking conversations that I had post-election was with a friend who said, honestly, she voted for Trump because of where he stands on abortion. And I was super challenged by that because she didn't mention any other issues. It was just that one issue. And my thoughts were, why are we still talking about abortion? Mm-hmm. It's not like even pro-choice people are pro-abortion. Nobody's pro-abortion. Nobody wants to have an abortion. Nobody, feels good about that decision. But when you look at statistics, half of the abortions that happen in the U.S. are repeat abortions. Mm. So that means that a woman is going again and again and having an abortion, and those are only the ones that are reported. So my thoughts on this have always been, why don't both sides come together and try to cut down on that number alone? And by doing programs that empower women to make better decisions about their body, their choices, let them work on their self-esteem. Why aren't we coming together and working on that instead of having old men in government tell us or, even talk about criminalizing women for having an abortion? I don't get it. I think if we're going to say fair is fair, then we should criminalize men for shaming women into sex. Mm. That's my thoughts on that. And, if it is a religious issue, then, ask yourself, what would Jesus do? I don't think Jesus would criminalize people. I think he would talk about forgiveness, and he would also promote you taking that up with your God, not the government. That's my little soapbox for today. So moving away from politics and into today's show, I was purposely vague about the topic. I wanted people to be curious when I said we were going to be talking about vagina power. And, the reason why is, if this makes you feel uncomfortable, I think sometimes, we miss out on opportunities to learn something when we're uncomfortable. And that discomfort turns into avoidance. And that avoidance is absolutely counter to relating. And, show's called Relatable. I'm a big fan of people relating better. And so, I want you to be curious and stay in here with us. So if if you're just listening and not watching, you won't know that I'm wearing a shirt today that says La Force des Femmes, which means the strength of women. And you know what? We are strong. And yeah, a.k.a. Vagina power. This is my way of saying vagina power on my shirt. But we are strong. We shouldn't be embarrassed about it or be disrespected for being so. And I can't think of an issue, a personal issue, a political issue, or a global issue that wouldn't benefit by utilizing and empowering women to their fullest to walk in their truth and stand for what they believe in. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And shout out to the Guild in Los Angeles. It's a beautiful group of empowered women. They are the ones that produce this shirt. So shout out to the Guild. And today I'm joined with two people that couldn't be more perfect to talk about this topic. And as the show must go on, we do have a surprise guest that's kind of filling in for somebody else, but not necessarily, because I think he's really meant to be a part of this conversation. So, and I'm going to share two stories, a story about each of you, why I think you're perfect to be on this show. But let me give you a brief bio of who's in the studio with me today. So first of all, joined with me on my left here is Jadah. Jadah is a Jadah Chatterjee, Nurse Jadah Chatterjee. She is a registered nurse working in women's health and children's services. She's also a lactation consultant and an infection prevention specialist. That's a mouthful, Jadah. That's even more than vagina power. I mean, that's a lot. She is also the co-author of a children's book called Sticky, a germ story. Look at that. And she also happens to be a good friend of mine. I'm happy that she's here. And welcome, Jadah. And also join with me is not Stephanie Medeiros, but her beautiful fiance and partner in crime and just about everything in life, John Cowan. He's a Kansas City native, art director, artist manager, actor, and co-founder of the LA-based creative agency 24K7, which specializes in working with entertainers and the arts and building their brands. So welcome, John.
Thank you.
Later, we're going to be joined by Stephanie. She's going to call us in from Brazil. She had a little trouble with her visa. They went home for the holidays, and she had a little bit of trouble getting back to us, but she's going to call us in. So we're going global today with our vagina power.
Yeah.
So before we get started, I want to share a story about both of you guys, and I hope this is going to be okay. I know you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay too. That it specifically illustrates why you both are so good to be on this, to talk about vagina power today. So I'll start with John. Okay, so John, I could tell two, but I'm going to focus on the most recent one. John recently proposed to Stephanie in Brazil in front of her entire family. And they posted this video, and maybe we can encourage them to share it with everybody afterwards because it's really amazing. But John, the little Casanova that he is, planned this proposal out, and he's basically talking to the family, talking to all of her family, and having Stephanie interpret in Portuguese. So he's like, I'm so glad to be here. This is so wonderful. I feel so blessed. You guys are amazing. We're about to eat and party. But before we do that, I have one question to ask Stephanie. Now, keep in mind, she's translating everything that he's saying, right? And then he says, in perfect Portuguese, Stephanie, will you marry me? I mean,
thank you so much.
It's so stylish, man. Like, so many men could learn from you. It was so beautifully done. And I asked him later, I was like, John, did you get like a family member in on the proposal to get the Portuguese down? He's like, no, Google Translate. Like, I'm resourceful, man. I didn't need any help, So it's pretty amazing. And, so I can't wait to talk to you about strong women because I know you're engaged to one, and
Absolutely,
we're going to see how you feel about that. And Jada's story, oh God, you're going to know exactly what I'm going to share. So the first time that I hung out with Jada, we have a mutual friend, and the first time I hung out with her, she had just had her baby, and she was still breastfeeding. And we're in my loft in downtown LA, and windows are open, and we're just, jamming, listening to some good music. And Jada lifts up her shirt, screams out my window, I sustain a life with these titties. And at that moment, I knew I was going to be friends with this woman the rest of my life. The rest of my life. You did that.
Yes.
You did that. And I was like, yeah, I was all into that movement. So these are definitely two people that we can talk about strong women, the strength of women and women's empowerment with. And before we totally dive into the topic, there's something that I always like to ask my guest in terms of, before we start relating on this, is there anything on top of your mind and heart that you want to share or get off your chest before we talk about today's topic? Anything that might affect today's?
Well, I would say that given the current political climate and where our country is and where women stand right now, I think that we should be powerful and firm in our stance on demanding respect in our personal lives as well as in our professional lives, and supporting other women to do so as well. Whatever your medium is, if that means that you march, then march. If that means that you support women by listening to them and their concerns, wherever they have concerns in their lives, then be that power for them. And that's something that I believe really strongly. And I think that more than ever now, that's what I've held on to, is my girls, more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, anything you want to
I would echo that with being a cishet white male, that it's particularly my duty that I see to get out of the way and to, like you said, support when I'm asked to, when I'm, invited into safe spaces and things like that. And I think men need to lower their sense of superiority, and in doing so can understand how much they have to learn in these areas and the mass effort that's needed in order to really get somewhere in supporting these issues and getting out of the way.
Well said. Judd, do you consider yourself a feminist?
I actually have a minor issue with the term feminist.
Okay.
Only because feminism, the term feminist is talking about females, which biologically is talking about like the body parts. I would call myself a womanist in the sense that, there's lots of trans lives out there that, need the representation and the support just as much and are just as valid in their, life experiences and everything. So that's kind of my one thing there. But
so
yes.
A womanist, not a feminist.
Right.
But a better definition, I think. Good definition.
Yeah, that's great.
What do you think, Jadah? What does feminist mean to you?
I think in the for the definitive terms, I would say yes. However, I believe that because feminism does have a lot to do with your biological meaning, then it's important for us to be able to embrace all people. Because I may not know what your feminism biologically, where you stand on that, and so I don't want to exclude that. So I would say by definition, yes. However, I have a different manner in which I implement that.
Yeah. I actually looked up the word feminist before I did this show because I wanted to be clear that I was thinking of it in terms of the way it's been defined. And the way that it's defined is just equal, for women to have equal rights, which, I'm totally into that. Everybody should have equal rights. To your point, too, there's other, it's not just male, female anymore, and everybody deserves, equal rights, no matter where they are. So I'm very much a feminist in that sense. I have also struggled with the term as well because I've seen it used in a way that sometimes feels like it's bashing the other side, or and it shouldn't be that. If we can't do things that are lifting everybody up, I have a little hard time with that, and I would have a hard time identifying with a word or title that put somebody down to lift me up or people like me. So it's interesting how people use the word, but generally speaking, it means that we all have same rights, equal rights, which means equal rights over our bodies, equal rights to services. Equal means equal. Equal pay. Absolutely. So next question for both of you. We'll start with Jadah this time. How does your belief that women do deserve equal rights and women are powerful, have strength, how does that show up in your work?
I work in nursing, and so I practice daily empowering women to make decisions that they are firm on. Being the leader in their profession, knowing what they know, taking the time to become aware and very clear about what they know, and not being afraid to voice what they know, regardless of who they're sharing that information with. Of course, doing it professionally and with the evidence to back it up, but advocating for what they know is correct, what is best practice, and implementing that.
And you're working with women at a time where they're most female in many ways, right? So you help women, from the moment that they've had a child, and particularly teaching them how to breastfeed. Can you talk a little bit about that, and what are some of the challenges and what are the things that you try to impart on women that are new mothers?
Well, it's actually two-part, because I not only do I work with the moms, but I work with leading and supervising the nurses that provide that care. And so because we are women providing that care to other women, there is a lot of empathy that has to be encouraged and reminded to be empathetic and compassionate. And then also providing the village, having the village start right then and there. The moment that you are introduced to me, whether you're pregnant or if you need assistance with lactation support, I make it very clear that I am now a part of your village. And I think that support is so important in order to make mom feel that she can do this, because it's not easy. Having a baby is not easy. Supporting the baby, sustaining the life of that baby, it's not easy. It's not easy for everyone. Some women have it easy, but it's not something that we should take for granted. And so I think that how I promote feminism in the work environment is mentoring, empowering women to make their own decisions, collaboration. I think that's really important. They have a lot of resources. The nurses have a lot of resources. So speak your mind, tell me what you're thinking. Let's together come up with an answer that's going to be best for the baby and the mom, and then let's implement together. Because a village extends with the circle of the providers, and it extends to the customer.
Yeah. When she was talking, John, I was thinking about your work, and even though totally different, so he empowers young artists, like musicians and things, and I know that in particular you have some female artists that you're working with, and some of the same things she was describing you probably could relate to, right? Like turning them on to like more of a village or support,
Absolutely, yeah. We see our kind of team as like the family aspect that you're talking about. We're there for each other in way more than just art. It's kind of life stuff, because you know, most of us, we live together at least for extended periods of time, and so what we do is we dig into kind of the implications, societal implications and everything behind all of their art before they start getting into the art. We want you to understand, the implications of racism and sexism and all of the isms and coming to a viewpoint of intersectionality within your life so that you can then go forward and express yourself, which is art, create art. So actually right now the whole roster is female.
Really?
Wow.
Do you think you specialize in it?
I specialize in becoming so infatuated and wanting to support and push those artists.
Nice. So I'll ask Jadah this question. If a woman's not feeling incredibly strong, how do you encourage that? How do you encourage her to just be fully who she is and confident? I think you said it earlier. What does that look like for you?
I like to know, I like to know where that comes from. And so I will ask, what are your concerns? And let them tell me what their concerns are. And then, it really doesn't matter what their answer is. Honestly, I just tell them, girl, dig deep. You have a vagina. You just pushed a baby out of your vagina, and you are sustaining a life right now. Like, no one can compare to that. And so it is very important. They always just kind of look at me like, I did just push a baby out of their vagina.
You're right.
Yeah, you did. And for my moms that didn't push a baby out of their vaginas, because we do live in a world where you can have a baby, it doesn't necessarily come out of your vagina. But I tell them, you carried a baby and this baby was jumping up and down on your cervix, okay? So you have the power to, life and host a warm, safe environment for a human being. And so you have to dig deep, and right now, this is about this baby right now. Let's take all of the energy that you have right now and invest it in this life really for the next 40 days. And that is what's going to assist you in, regaining and recharging, because we do have to recharge after we sustain a life. We have to recharge. And And that is, sometimes that takes days, sometimes that takes weeks. As we know, there is a large concern right now in our community with postpartum depression.
Yeah.
And so I think that, while I do in my approach, I make very light of it, but I do assess mom, for other signs and symptoms of postpartum depression, because it is something that's very real. And part of that assessment is looking at her support group. And I encourage her, who are your best friends? Who's on your team? Who's in your village?
Yeah.
Let's communicate with those people. Let me help you organize those people coming into your day and being present, even if they don't do anything. Don't come empty-handed. Make sure they bring you some food because you need to eat. But having presence is so important because we're powerful in numbers.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about that on our last show about, taking a test and a measure of like when you're with people, do they raise you up or do they kind of suck your energy out? And if there's a time in a woman's life where they absolutely need no other sucking going on, you got a baby to deal with that. But, it's this time where you need people to raise you up and support you. And, again, I think there's a segue to what you're doing too, because like you said at the beginning with all the isms, when a young artist is about to go out there and just show everything that they've got, right? Put themselves on a stage and their performance and their dress and they're just up for such criticism. Like, how do you make them strong and bulletproof around all that stuff that's about to happen, if they need it, how do you do that?
It's something that's still in the works because, we're on the very brink of breaking our first artist kind of into the mainstream. So I'm sure it's going to get a lot more intense and more real. But don't get me wrong, it's very much happening in the way of trying to get, collaborations done or going in to speak to certain record, executives or A&Rs and things like that. There is like a gate, and those men are the gatekeepers they see. And it's really atrocious. Like, it is awful. You always hear about it and everything, but not until you've sat there and watched them talk to you, like you're not only your artist, but your friend and partner, like that. And just be so nonchalant about it. And as if these point of views that they're taking of males being superior, like it's just fact and it's just evolution and it's, what, you don't get it? You don't see this? It's so obvious. Like, hold on, what? But we, Stephanie and I, here's a little testament to
his Stephanie, not me.
right. Not my Stephanie.
Your Stephanie.
Stephanie Medeiros. There was a time we were in a brief meeting. It was supposed to be very brief, with the head of a very big record. I'll leave it anonymous for now. But that was the point of view they were taking, and this conversation quickly turned into 6.5 hours of us almost yelling at each other about these point of views and how wrong they were.
Were they trying to tell her how to dress or how to be like the art? What was the?
It was almost acting like she's not even there.
Oh wow.
And talking to me about her.
Yeah.
Just because they look at me and they're like, "Oh, you're a male, you'll get this."
Yeah.
And talking
Like
about
she's a
women
product.
like it's property or product. In the meantime, she's sitting there like fact after fact after fact after fact of why he's wrong. But he won't hear it. And it eventually gets to the point where he is breaking down crying in front of us because of all this toxic masculinity that's just being purged out of him. And that was all, I give all that credit to Stephanie. Her perseverance, her sitting through all that when she doesn't have to, and it was incredible. But yeah, that's what we're up against. So to answer your question, that's kind of how we do it. We fight back, we push back as hard as we can, even in every conversation, whatever we make it known. We don't sacrifice these views for some views on YouTube or some views on social media. No, we've walked away from certain deals because we were like, no, that doesn't line up with our core mission, like as a collective.
There's something that I'm hearing that both of you said in the stories that you shared. It's like there's not much you really have to do but be a listener and be a supporter, right? To really empower women or empower anybody in that matter, because everything that we have or everything you need, you already have. It's just reminding somebody that they have it, and like, knowing your truths and not letting social media or anything else get in the way. And a new mom, probably a new mom has grandmas, aunts, in-laws, all in her face telling her, do things a certain way. And it's really like, let me be the person that you can voice your concerns. And I'll address those concerns. I'll arm you with knowledge. But girl, you're going to make the ultimate decision. You're empowered to do that. You already have that. So it's not like, it's not like, oh, here's the 10 steps to do to empower somebody. It's like you already got it. If anything, and I think it relates to the whole reason why I'm doing the show, it's like, just stop, slow down a little bit, get out, get to free yourself of the distractions, get educated, get curious, get some information in you so you're armed with that, and then know that you got it.
Yeah. I would say that in the last probably 5 or 7 years, I have seen our power be ignited. I mean, women are so strong, and we are curious, I mean, thanks to Google Translate, it keeps me in business because I can say, I'm not really sure where you got that from, but let me educate you on what the latest data supports, and we're like sponges. We want to know. We will stand. I do support women, a lot of them who have had their babies later in life after the career is up and kicking and going, and those women are fierce. You can't just provide them any old kind of care because they've sat at the table. They've, elbowed their way to have a seat at the table. And they're not just going to go for any physician telling them what they need to do, or for that matter, any nurse pushing them in a direction that they have already done the research and identified isn't what's best for themselves or for their baby. And so, we should give women props because we have come a long way to be educated and implement that knowledge. And I think we have to thank people like Sheryl Sandberg for her book on Lean In, and how she empowered everyone from the person that was sitting on the outside of the table to the person that was sitting in the boardroom to speak up for what they believed in and not let any man or woman direct you otherwise if you know that you have the power to be important.
Yeah. And I'm kind of mixed reviews on her in the book.
I am as well.
For a couple of reasons. But I agree with most of what you're saying. I sometimes where I get a little concerned, like I get concerned when a woman's competing like a man. When, she's buttoned up or she feels like in order to be heard, she's got to, mimic the traits of a man, maybe in dress or just a mannerism, and speaking more, authoritative or, strong leader kind of thing. Because I think, as a woman, like that we can lead, we can still be lead. Stephanie is a great example of this. Like she's just a little powerhouse of Brazilian energy that's feisty and just, but 100% girly, 100% like she'll speak her truth. You do too, she'll speak her truth, but she'll do it with joy and energy, and she's so feminine in doing it, and people will listen. Like she doesn't go into male speak and try to like rule a room or get her point across. She's just being her, and I would like to see more women do that, and not go after this like archetype. And mimic something. Just be you, be you to the fullest, and that's going to be the good leadership, and that's what empowered men looks like, I think.
I would say that that's also, we're seeing that because of the generations. You know, I think that's generational. I see my generation, and I see the generation, the 80s, the true 80s babies, they speak up, and it is very femme. And so we want to continue to support that.
Yeah. Let's spend some time here talking about female role models, or and somebody that you admire for being strong and being who they are. Let's start with John on this one. Could be someone we don't know, maybe somebody that you grew up with, or maybe somebody that's in the news lately. Like, who do you admire?
I would have to say, oh boy, Bell Hooks is a very very powerful figure to me. I love everything she writes.
She's an author.
She is.
Okay, tell me.
So she's actually one of the people who was kind of developing the theory of intersectionality.
Okay.
So she's like a very well-respected voice in that kind of area. I could do a lot, but I think that's the person that I would use for that
right
question.
Maybe we'll come back and ask you another one. You know, I got a different question for you. Well, let's see. What do you got, Jadah? Who do you admire right now?
You know, I really admire Florence Nightingale. I do, and because, you know, she stood up for what was right as a woman, in a very femme manner, for the safety and advocacy of others, you know, in a man's world, you know. And I just really admire that. I think that she is really the pioneer of nursing care and infection prevention and patient safety, all those things that I really am passionate about. And I'm so grateful that, you know, she did that she stood up for that during a time that was unheard of. And then, of course, Michelle Obama. She is the epitome of, like, everything woman, and I think she is a good representation of what I would like to see us compare African American women to when they think about an African American woman wherever you are in the world. I think that she's done a very good job to say, oh, okay, yeah, I know what a black woman looks like. I think she does a great job of that. Yeah.
Okay, I do too. She's the second time she's come up on the show, so
Yeah.
What about so childhood? You know, can you think of the first time that you interacted with someone that was like, wow, what a woman? You know, maybe you said it differently because you were a kid, but you were just really impressed with this female in your life. Do either one of you have somebody that comes to mind?
You know, I have a really, really good friend. She is a woman, and her name is Katie Uter. She's one of my best friends, and you know, when I met her, I was in a very fun but serious time in my life where I was making a change over from, you know, eating like a regular, lovely Louisiana girl to cleaning up my diet and learning about nutrient-dense foods and fitness. But I saw her do all of that and take care of her daughter who has CP and just always maintain grace.
Yeah.
And always provide support and motivation and mentorship. And you know, I keep in touch with her on a regular basis, and I constantly carry that vision of someone who, you know, everything wasn't laid out. It wasn't all butterflies and lambs, but, you know, she continued to maintain and be a woman, dress like a woman, but still stand up for what she believed in and fight for her daughter and, you know, just provide a good life, and then share that with other women. So that's my person. Yeah.
Mine is Nicole Hodges Pursley, who was a professor of mine at the University of Kansas. It was an acting professor, and she is quickly became much more than just that, like a mentor of everything to me. She is just. There was a time when I was not saying keywords and phrases from books on feminism and things that I've read and become educated, and so she was one of those first people to really be patient with me throughout my early education and kind of purging of toxic societal kind of things that I'd been grown up around.
I love that you brought up patience. Isn't that one of the most beautiful traits that usually the feminine energy has, of just like, look, you know, I know I've got this nurturing part of me, but I also know enough to like back up and let you come up with be curious and come up with your own answers and give you room to grow. And patience, we need a lot of patience to allow somebody to just grow. Because I think sometimes if we try to tell somebody too soon what to do, you know, it stuns the growth a little bit. Yeah. But if we stand back and go, you know, I'm here for you. The stove over there is kind of hot, you know. And you're probably going to touch it, and I'll be here to put some aloe on it, and then we're going to talk about it. But you know, I'm going to let you figure this out and keep a safe distance. But patience is a really big deal.
I tell parents during a childbirth class that I teach that 80% of successful breastfeeding and parenting is patience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said that we were going to bring Steph into the conversation, and I don't know if she's listening, but I think that I can call her. I think this is a good time to do it. Let's see. The magic of Skype.
Hello.
Hello. Hello from Brazil.
What's up? I'm here
You're here.
from across a whole different ocean.
Give us a greeting in Portuguese.
Oi, tudo bom, todo mundo? Estamos aqui no Relatable com Stephanie Michele.
That's awesome.
Nice. Well, have you been listening?
Yes, the whole thing. I've been freaking out because everything everybody has been saying is so on point.
Yeah.
And I really wish I was there, but I'm really Johnny is there because I'm really feeling he's bringing in this very important male voice that we need to listen to. That's the biggest part of feminism right now, is to get everybody in talking about it.
I agree. I wanted to. When you said this earlier, Johnny, when you said, and you're gonna, I'm gonna paraphrase, and you're gonna say it back in your words so we get this right, about letting people or letting men know to, like, hey, back off, like, let a woman be a woman. It's not, there's no threat like to allowing that to happen. It's more of a, like, hey, we're full body together, right? Like, I loved how you said that. You say it again so we don't miss this point. Like, what would you're encouraging men in a way, so, like, speak to the men that are listening right now.
Yeah. And when I speak, it's usually primarily to men and white men. Those are my intersections here. And what I'm saying in all of that is, like you said, get out of the way. But also, not like just get out, like we're talking about, but get out of the way and sit and listen. Like, go sit down, take your seat, and listen to the people who have actual experience with this. Being a white male, I don't have experience with racism and sexism and those kinds of things, of feeling it.
Yeah.
So that's the whole idea, is just admitting you don't know, instead of trying to be so defensive and thinking you're so superior and being like, no, these are all just opinions that we can debate about. They're not. And thinking you're so intellectual for doing so because you're philosophizing about this thing you've never thought about, because you've never had to think about it. So that's the whole point, is to sit down, be quiet, and listen to the people who have this experience.
Absolutely. The big part of the show, and, like, two things that I'm always talking about here, and I'll be talking about this to the day I die, I think, is there's always more information available. At any given time, there's always more information available. So it's not just sitting back. It's like, wait, what can I ask? Like, I don't know this, and I first need to admit I don't know, right? And being curious enough to ask a question, and then realizing, like, there's these nuances in terms of how we relate. So at any given time, the circumstances of how we're relating can change too. And that's the reason why I asked the question at the top of the hour. I know, like, there's things that we all carry that are triggering us to relate on a topic in a different way. And so sometimes, in these moments of, like, I don't understand, and people are just, like, talking and not allowing everybody in the room, male, female, whoever, to fully take part in what's, a solution or what's happening or a conversation, we have to sort of stop and be cautious of our triggers, listen really well, and ask great questions. I mean, I think that's, that's what we need to do in terms of relating and solving a lot of the issues that are in our world today. So on that note, so I always talk about kind of changing how we're relating. And Steph, are you actually watching the show?
Yes, I can see all of you.
Okay, you can see us? Hi. So I don't know. I know you're not going to be able to see this because I can't get close enough to the camera, but I want Johnny and Jadah to look at my nails.
I've been checking you out.
What's on my nails, Johnny?
Oh, my.
What's on them?
Stephanie, you would lose it right now.
Wait, hold them up to the camera.
That is amazing.
She can zoom in.
Can you see?
It's your drawings.
I have intergalactic vaginas on my nails.
Awesome.
Oh my God.
Your art.
The power of the vagina on your fingertips.
And and don't worry. So both you and Jadah are getting a set of your own. So this is, talking about empowered. Are you freaking out?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Talking about empowered women, and two of my favorite women in my girl squad run this company called Nail Snaps, and which, you know, they allow you to like upload any artwork that you want and create these decals and put them on your nails.
That's
so
awesome.
I wanted to gift you guys a set. Johnny, you can take those home to Steph.
I'm going to wear them.
You're going to wear them? Or even better. Stephanie, you're never going to see these nails.
Oh boy.
You're just going to see him wearing them. But the reason why I want to do it, other than thanking you guys and just empowering you guys and also having a little fun, it's like if someone told me a couple days ago or a year ago I'd be wearing vaginas on my nails, or even saying that so many times in an hour-long show, I would have said they're crazy. But why I wanted to do this for you guys and wanted to put some attention on the vagina is, you know, there's this walk that's going to happen, or there's this march for women's rights that's happening the day after the election, pretty much everywhere, but a big one in D.C. And there's a cute movement around the pussy caps. So women are crocheting these like pink caps that look like little kitty cats. And I don't like the word pussy. I'll say vagina like a million times over pussy, because I can't even say it with like saying it seriously. I think it sounds so degrading to me. It sounds like such a small word or something a white male would say to like degrade someone, and we have a perfect example of that in the tape that started it all. And so I think it's great that women are marching. I think it's great that women are organizing, but I just want to encourage people, women in particular, and men that are going to march in this too, to think about their own words and you know what it really means in terms of women's rights, and you know what they align with, and do that. You know, so if I was marching, I would have my vagina nails on, and probably not,
and your shirt,
and my and my the Strength of Women shirt, and I would be willing to talk about the topics that are important to me, but I don't think I'd put one of those caps on personally. Not that I have anything against cats or pink, but I just,
there is the pussy power,
Yeah. So. Well, we can say girl squad too. I don't even like to say the word purse. It's too close to the word pussy, to be honest with you. I don't. But,
I said vagina the other day, and there were 3 seasoned, lovely nurses, and they were like, I haven't said that word in a long time. I was like, okay, so let's all say it in unison.
Yeah, let's say it. Let's say it. It's just a word. And, a big thing here. I mean, I'm sure you guys are going to see me get uncomfortable on the show, and I definitely have some guests coming up. I'm going to make sure that I'm a little uncomfortable. But so what if I am? For a couple minutes or whatever, until I ask a question and really understand the person a little bit better. So what if I am? It's like, you can only be uncomfortable for so long. And if you back away from that, like I said earlier, it's like avoidance, and then you don't get to relate with people. So what if you come up against a word or thing that you don't believe in, ask more questions and stick it in there with people to understand where they're coming from.
But I think you have to desire that, and like you said earlier, you have to, have a team of people that are around you that are also curious and interested in helping to bring that best out of you.
Well, make space for it.
Yes.
Make space for it. Anything that you want in life, you have to make space for it. And so for me, why this show, it's like, I want deep connection. I want to feel deeply connected to anybody that's in my life. And, if I bring new people in my life, that's really important to me, that I see them and they see me. So if I want that, I have to make space for that. Making space for that means time, and making space for that means my phone's not on me when I'm in front of someone. I'm making eye contact and I'm relating with them. That's super important. Steph, do you have anything that you want to share in this lovely circle of women's empowerment?
I am absolutely happy there's conversations like this happening more and more and more. I'm honored my vaginas are on your nails.
That's an
Did
awesome
you ever
phrase.
think that you were going to say that?
No.
I am honored that my vaginas are on your nails.
That is awesome.
I might just call that the segment. That's going to be the name of the segment.
And it's in tune with what we were talking about.
Yeah.
When I make the illustrations about the vaginas, they're called intergalactic vaginas. And they're almost to poke fun at the taboo that people have against the word and the drawing, because it's something so normal. And every time I put any of these drawings up on social media, I get extreme comments of either praise or, usually men telling me, why don't you draw something else?
Draw pretty flowers, little girl.
Exactly. So that's one of the reasons why I keep drawing vaginas. I probably won't stop drawing vaginas until people look at them and they're like, oh, okay, cool.
It is a pretty flower.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents, normalizing and demystifying the taboo that is a vagina nowadays.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah. And I think a safer, softer conversation alongside that is like, we should not, we women should not be intimidated by our own strength. We should not be hiding or allowing people to disrespect us or be embarrassed or apologizing for it. We should just own it. And, if it means talking about your sexual parts or your body parts or, talking about things that matter to you, whatever that means, that's what we should be doing, I think. So I think I have enough time. So you guys know that I do this segment at the end of the show where I ask the guests to share what I call a heart swell moment, which is just basically like looking at the camera and sharing a tribute, a new commitment to somebody, just saying something directly to a person that's meant a difference to you in a very deep, meaningful way. The reason that I do this is I believe that, as we share deep thoughts, deep feelings, that it just raises the vibration of empathy in the world. So I think we have enough time for all 3 of you to do it, if you want to participate, Steph. And I'll give... Have you guys thought about this? Because you knew you were going to do it, right? You thought about it? Have you thought about it?
Not
it's okay.
yet.
All right. Then that just means Jada's going to go first. I can tell a joke or kill some time if you want me to.
I am and have been committed to engaging with my niece, Kristen. She is such a lovely, sweet soul. She's 12 years old, and I actually had to start doing research to figure out how am I going to connect with this young lady in order to pass the vagina power from my mother to myself to this this other offspring in our family who lives in Louisiana, so I don't have access to see her on a regular basis. And sometimes our conversations are strained because she's a teenager and, I'm sure she thinks I'm old. So I've started engaging her and finding out what is she reading. And, that takes a few conversations to get that out and for me to figure out which books are going to be best for us. But I recently read an article that stated, the best way to engage with teenagers was to find out what they're reading. And then that way we had some common ground. So that is my commitment, is for 2017 for Kristen and I to figure out what are we reading together and how are we going to continue to empower the legacy of the women in our family. And the only way that we can empower that legacy to continue is being able to relate. Yeah.
Lovely. That's awesome.
Love you.
Cool. I don't think she's ever going to think you're old. You're cool. It's cool Aunt Jadah. You got the cool Aunt Jadah vibe. It's like the best thing to be in the world. I treasure Aunt Stephanie status.
Yeah.
I treasure it.
Yeah.
It's cool. So, Johnny, you got something?
My obvious go-to would be Stephanie here, Stephanie Medeiros. But
It's okay.
I am going to... Let's see, I'm going to talk about actually an artist that I've been working with that means a lot to me. Her name is Naj, and she goes by Death Eater.
Death Eater?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is quite a powerful thing to me because the whole philosophy of it for her is someone that would be a Death Eater is somebody like the idea of Jesus or somebody like that. Somebody who has that ability to painfully sit through and eat the death of somebody, like we've been talking about with purging that toxic masculinity or purging those certain things. The people who are patient enough to sit through and like just keep patting your back, and probably a lot of what a nurse does.
Yeah.
So, she has really taught me so much in the very little time that we've been working together, that I just wanted to say thank you, and that I can't wait to keep working together and see what else is coming.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You're going to have to tell us where we can find her. music.
Sure,
when
yeah,
it
there's
comes out.
nothing out yet,
Yeah.
but I will.
We can Instagram you. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Steph, you still with us?
I am.
Do you have something you'd like to share? You want to put some empathy vibration out into the world? And
Yes.
it truly is global, you being in Brazil and joining us. So,
know.
yeah. What you got, girl?
Well, my obvious go-to would also be Johnny. Naj is also teaching me so much about just being a human, just the way she operates through the world. But I would take a little bit of a time here to tell you, Steph and Michele, thank you for opening such a beautiful space for all these people with diversity and with different views and different paths of life to come in and share a little bit of what they do and who they are, because at the end of the day, this is what being relatable is taking yourself out of your shoes and trying to figure out what it is to live on that other person's path. So thank you for opening this space, and thank you for always being with me and being also patient with my, Brazilianness. And for having something like PSC and something like Relatable, and I'm truly honored to be a part of this project with you as well. So thank you, Stephanie and Michele.
I have tissues in the studio. I never thought I would use them for myself. Thanks a lot, Stephanie. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, mwah, mwah, the feeling's mutual. Really, everybody in this room. All right. So where do you go after that? Like, how do you suck back your tears? Shouldn't have to suck back your tears. Let them out. Let them flow.
Yeah.
All right. I thank you for that. And I can't wait to see you and watch the two of you, your journey towards marriage. We're definitely going to have to post the engagement video somewhere on my profile so I can share with the audience, because it's so cute. It's like, yeah, you stepped up, man. That was amazing. And the look on your face was like, what? Did I have to translate that part? Like, wait a second. Oh, it was so awesome. It was really beautiful. It's what love should look like, you guys. All right. So I thank you both for joining me in the studio. So if you want to learn more about John or 24K, they're a creative agency that does branding for artists and entertainment that both Stephanie and John co-founded. You can contact John on Instagram at, I love your handle. I just figured out what it is. Like,
did you?
Yeah, I just figured out. Like, when I was reading it before the show, I realized, it's a Star Wars reference. But it's at JMCPO. You can find him on Instagram and, of course, connect with what?
JMC3PO.
3PO. Yeah, let me do this again.
My initials are JMC. So it's just JMC3PO.
Yeah, thank you for correcting me. JMC3PO. And you can get in touch with him, Stephanie, any of his artists through there. And of course, Jadah, we can find Jadah on Twitter at Chatterjee Nurse. And then not to confuse you at all, but on Instagram it's Nurse Chatterjee. And if you forget any of this, you can always hit me up too, and I can connect you with these guys. So couple things coming into the next show, and then I always issue a challenge related to this week's show. So next week's show is going to be interesting. I've told John about this. And it's happening. So I am actually going to have I'm going to be joined in the studio by someone I've never met before. We connected on Bumble, and then we decided we weren't going to meet, and it was kind of like a really weird disconnect. And we both kind of talked about it later, and it's like, yeah, people are probably like making these mistakes online, and like, can we maybe talk this through? So I'm going to see this person for the first time ever live. on air. I can't believe he agreed to do it. But it's not going to be male bashing or female bashing. Like, we're truly going to try to work it out, like what women could do better on online dating and what men can do. And so he's a great guy. His name is Reese Gonzalez, and he will be here with me in the studio next week talking about online dating. And my challenge, God, if I wasn't going to cry during Steph's comments, I might do it for this. My challenge is there's this documentary called Gleason on Amazon right now. And if you're not familiar with it, it's the story of pro football player Steve Gleason that got ALS. And what he decided to do was do a documentary to his unborn child to, teach him things that he might not be around to do. So, or more particularly, ALS takes away your voice. You can't speak anymore. So he wanted to be able to like speak to his son, and then it turned into this whole project. Definitely have a box of tissues by your side when you watch this. Why I'm talking about this in connection to women's empowerment is, first of all, he is the definition, him and his wife, the definition of no excuses and don't give up. And I think their tagline for their charity is no white flags, right? So don't give up. And man, these guys are living it. But what was particularly striking about this documentary is his wife. Her name is Michele Gleason. She, throughout the documentary, is like, I don't want credit. Everybody's telling me I'm inspired, and it's just like I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Her doing that to me is totally 100% fully embodying what a woman looks like. She doesn't want the credit. She's just doing her thing. And, she actually found a way to kind of get through like these difficult hospital visits and just the life that's changing around them with Steve's disease by doing artwork. Stephanie, you'll appreciate that. So like her outlook was art. So I don't know, I just was totally moved, and I wanted to be able to give a shout out to this like really powerful couple. And whether you decide to donate to their charity or buy her art, or just pray for this couple. Like I just want to put some energy around them because they are inspirational. I know they didn't ask for it, and it's like a really tough gig what they're dealing with, but like it's a really powerful story, and I think we should all watch it. So that's your assignment. Watch Gleason. It's on Amazon Prime, and tell me what you think about that, or reach out to them and give them some love. As always, you can share what you've learned or anything about relating or anything that came up in today's show with me by tweeting me at Love More Now on Twitter, or contact me through Instagram with Relate with Steph. And we do have, Stephanie mentioned it, we do have another PSE event coming up. PSE stands for Public Shared Experience. It's a circle. It's like a circle of communication that happens at the Relational Center here in Los Angeles, where we just practice what it feels like to relate really well. We get silly, we get kind of emotional, we have a lot of fun with it, we learn things, stuff comes up at these events where it's like, oh, I didn't mean to share that, but it's usually those things that like actually give somebody else goosebumps and changes, and people walk away going, oh, I gotta think about that. Like, and that's to me what it's about. Like I want to create more of these like goosebump moments where we're truly inspired by each other and we're having like really amazing interactions and human connections. So we have another one of those coming up. It's Sunday, January 29th. The time is 4 o'clock. It starts right at 4 o'clock. And if you want more information about that, you can look on Facebook or Eventbrite. Just look for PSE, Public Shared Experience, but you can find it by the 3 initials, PSE. That is it for today's show. It's been there's so many things that we talked about today, but if you, whether you're a female or a male listening, just be you, do you. Yeah. Goodbye and happy relating to everyone.
You're listening to Relatable with Stephanie Michele, only on LA Talk Radio.